Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Rookie Card Collector 123 video. Today's video is going to be fairly short. I've just been noticing a recent trend in the hobby, and I'm just wondering if it's just myself or if others have also noticed the same kind of a thing. My last video I just put out, most recently, I did a video on my top 25 baseball players that I'm collecting these days. Which included primarily pre-war Hall of Famers, along with Joe Jackson was the only non-Hall of Famer, and then just the few blue chip post-war Hall of Famers, the typical guys: Mantle, Mays, Aaron, Clemente, Jackie Robinson. Most of my buying over the past probably 3, 4 years, 5 years or so, going back to the COVID peak time. Most of my buying, almost all my buying has come through eBay more than anything else. I get very few items via auction house these days, and my location in Central Florida is not privy to any significant vintage card shows really at all. We have a couple of vintage shows a year, and those shows, which are predominantly vintage, typically cover about 60 to 80 tables, something like that. So not real big. Most of the vintage stuff there tends to be golden era, golden age stuff, 50s, 60s, 70s tops, Bowman, a sprinkling of pre-war, but primarily post-war vintage. So most of my buying, like I said, is done through eBay. And over the last few years, on a regular basis, I look for especially those 25 guys that I just mentioned in my last video. And I usually come across at least a couple of items for just about every player on a daily basis. And of course, we all know that eBay listings, primarily buy it now listings these days, tend to be very overpriced and well above market. And part of that is the seller has to incorporate the eBay fees into his pricing. Part of it is that the sellers try to buy stuff at least at comps or below. So in order for them to make money, if it's a business for you, you've got to sell obviously well above that to try to make a living. So for all those reasons, I understand why the majority of times I can't buy anything on eBay, but that's my source that I look at every day anyway, regardless. And I've also been known to, in many cases, some of my collector friends, especially those that I've met through YouTube over the past year since I started my channel. Very often, since I'm searching eBay every day, I reach out to people who I know are collecting certain players or looking for certain cards, and sending links to them in case they're considering making a purchase. So I do that very often. And always happy to try to help out. Doesn't cost me anything. Of course, assuming it's not a card that I'm interested in buying myself, but otherwise. So anyway, my video today, the main focus is really to put something out there that I've been seeing, and I would say in the last month or two, probably more so than before that. As the sports card market, especially the vintage card market, and especially the premium higher end players and the higher end cards, the more in demand stuff, not the typical Topps and Bowman and Leaf, stuff that you'll find on eBay all the time, regardless. But the pre-war stuff, the rarer stuff, the oddball stuff, things like that. I've been finding over the last couple of months that the eBay listings, I look at new listings every day because I've already scoured through the previous days and the days and weeks and months before that. So I typically just look at the newly listed items. And what I'm finding is the premium stuff for the premium players, all of a sudden, it seems, over a couple of months, is just not showing up for sale on eBay anymore. And again, most of these listings tend to be buy it nows. The occasional auction that does come up is almost always the usual suspects: the Greg Morrises, the Probsteins, the auction houses that generate tons of eyeballs, and the likelihood that you're going to strike a huge bargain with those sellers is not that great, needless to say. So no one else seems to be looking to auction stuff, primarily buy it now. That hasn't changed a lot. That's been going on, I think, for a good while now, at least the past few years. But what has changed, I'm looking for my Honus Wagners, Ty Cobbs, Joe Jacksons every day on eBay. And I'm not finding recently anything significant, which is getting me to thinking now. Obviously, they can list it on eBay at overpriced, which is the norm, and it'll sit there. It doesn't sell. And there's tons of those players' cards on eBay that are premium cards, and they're sitting there because they've been there for a long time, and they're overpriced. But people that are selling to actually make sales and need that money to live on and turn over inventory, that stuff does not seem to be making its way to eBay. Which has kind of put a crimp on my buying and stuff I'm looking for. As I said, auction houses have not been my route as far as the way to go over the past few years. Some of it is limited budget. Some of it is the rumors that we've had over the past couple of years with chill bidding and stuff like that. So I've opted to primarily stick with eBay. So my predicament recently has been nothing I'm looking for really is showing up on eBay. There's many, many days where I'm looking at Wagner, Cobb, Babe Ruth, and I'm not finding a single quality item getting listed that particular day. And again, I'm not counting the stuff that's super overpriced. That's just museum pieces. So I'm wondering, other collectors out there, whether you be YouTube members or not on YouTube, watchers, or other people seeing the same thing. My theory why it's happening is because we're in such a strong what I would say bull market, where prices have been overheated on the premium players and the premium cards and the higher end condition. Because of that environment, nobody selling their cards wants to take a chance and possibly leave money on the table by listing something at a buy it now price on eBay. That's a realistic price. And reality is they could have gotten 20 or 30% more for it if there was a bidding war at an auction house rather than listing it on eBay. Of course, the downside to the auction house is once you give it to the auction house and the auction begins, you're stuck with whatever price the card sells for. Now, of course, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, chill bidding and other types of things that go on with these auction houses can negate that risk if you've got things set up in a favorable manner for yourself. But obviously, that's not the way things are supposed to be done. And certainly, I do not condone that kind of stuff. So my thinking is the reason why the premium stuff is not getting on eBay now is, like I said, people maybe don't want to leave money on the table, so they're going to the auction houses, the REAs, the Heritages, the Goldens. They're consigning the stuff to auction, and then either they're maximizing their return because they're getting the people with deep pockets bidding in those auctions. If the auction's not going well, like I said, there's avenues to circumvent their item selling for a bad price. So that factors into it. And so that's just my thoughts on what's been happening, something I've noticed. I don't think I haven't seen any other YouTuber put out a video regarding this subject. And it's only been the last couple of months, I think, most recently. So I'm wondering, is that a relevant thought process that people are not wanting to chance, maybe not maximizing their card when they sell it, and they're giving it to auction houses? And either way, either things work out, even if the auction is not going well for them, or just the fact that the market is so overheated right now that if a card is at a low point and it's a premium card, somebody's going to bid it up, even if it's not a card they're really looking for. And the market is going to kind of take care of itself or police itself at this point because things are so hot. In a down market or a cold market, I could almost guarantee you that all these premium cards of the Ruths and the Wagners and the Cobbs would not be going to auction houses all the time, because there's always the chance that, the right bidders are not eyeballing the auction the day that it's closing. A lot of factors can happen that prevent a good sale or a good final result from an auction, and would be more safe to just list it on eBay with a fair buy it now and just go with that. So I think in a down market, that's the way just about everybody goes. And in the past couple of years, 3 years, up until maybe just mid 2025 or so, the market's been down somewhat from the 2021, 2022 peak time. Now it's come back up in the past year. But I saw lots of premium cards being put on eBay at somewhat realistic prices over the past 3 years or so while the market was down. Now that the market's up, every premium card, it seems to me, just about is going to auction house. And if you don't want to bid with the auction houses, don't trust them, your chance of picking up big cards is drastically reduced right now at this point. That's how I see it. So what do you guys think? I'd be interested in hearing if other people notice the same thing, or, maybe I'm just crazy. But, please let me know in the comments. And otherwise, hope you enjoyed the video today. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys again on the next one.